born to take the middle path, the safe stretch of road. But us warriors,
history has been made,
are born with something in us. The light and the dark, the fire and the ice, the good and the bad, that takes us down a different path. A path to glory that threatens to destroy us. For each battle is not fought on the canvas, but in the arena of the mind, where there's a fine line between genius and madness.
the whole world is gonna eat that wood.
Loved for the enemies slain, loathed for the destruction left behind. For the most victorious, it's not where the journey takes them, but when the journey ends. So go forth, brother, and let the battle begin.
Bring it on. I'm ready.
Welcome back to Fight Week in your official live weighing show for UFC 264. I'm Adam Catterall. It's a pleasure as always to be in your company. Joining me from Liverpool, Mr. Nick Peet.
I'm here.
And normally when you tune into this show, there's three faces that you are greeted with. I'm about to now obviously introduce the UFC Hall of Famer and former middleweight champion of the world, Mr. Michael Bisping, who is supposed to be with us. Hence the delay for us getting on air this evening. It's not like Mike to be late, but what I will say to our BT bosses, this is what happens when you allow a lad from the Northwest loose in Vegas on his own. It's your own fault. It's your own fault. You sent him to Vegas to cover the fight, and now we can't find him. We don't know where he is. If you are watching this transatlantic and you know exactly what room Mr. Bisping is in, if you could just give him a knock, that'd be wonderful. We are due to be here for a short period of time as we welcome in the cast of UFC 264. They're about to weigh in approximately a couple of minutes' time. So we'll be going live to Las Vegas to get up to date with the weights and looking into the eyes of all the fighters that are participating in this event from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas tomorrow evening, which is live on BT Sport and BT Sport Box Office. As you can see there, that's the main card. Kicking us off is going to be Sean O'Malley taking on UFC newcomer Chris Moutinho. Irene Aldana takes on Yana Kunitskaya. You've got the heavyweight clash between Tai Tuivasa, who Nick caught up with earlier on this week against Greg Hardy. A fantastic welterweight clash. Gilbert Burns taking on Stephen Thompson. I'll give you some insights to that fight because I was lucky enough to catch up with Wonderboy a little earlier on this week. And then the main event, of course, probably the biggest non-title fight that the UFC have ever done. It's Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, Part 3. Would you go along with that statement, Nick, when I say the biggest non-title fight that the UFC have ever done? I think it's trending to smash pay-per-view records this weekend right across the world.
Absolutely, and that's just the Conor McGregor effect, isn't it? With all due respect to Dustin Poirier. And listen, hands down, he's probably the number one active lightweight on the planet right now. But it's Conor McGregor, man, and this is the Conor McGregor show, and he brings the kind of eyeballs that nobody else does in this sport or has ever done. And I think people are buying into the fact of this, the real narrative that is, this could be his last ever fight inside the UFC.
Listen, we're a short time away before the guys and girls start hitting the scale. So just before they do, I'll give you some T's and C's because I know that you're going to want to watch UFC 264. The prelims get underway from 1 a.m. and they're available on BT Sport 2. The main card gets going at 3 a.m. in the morning UK time, and that's available on BT Sport Box Office. To get further information of how you can purchase the event, head to bt.com/sport box office. Everything is on the website there for you to make sure that you don't miss out on that main card. Obviously headlined, like I said, by the biggest non-title fight that the UFC have ever put on between Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. The ramifications for both these men are absolutely massive. Nick, we kind of know what direction the winner's going to go in. They're going to be heading towards Charles Oliveira and the championship title at £155. What happens to the loser, though?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? You know, if it's Dustin Poirier, of course, he goes away, he licks his wounds, and he makes another run for the title. But in Conor McGregor, that's the $1 million question. You know, he's achieved all his dreams. He could happily walk away from the sport, got other business interests. He doesn't need to stick around anymore. So that's why we're so bought into this fight.
Let's get underway. Wherever you are watching us in the world, welcome to BT Sport. We're going to be covering the whole of this weigh-in event for as long as it lasts. We are scheduled for a couple of hours, but if the guys and girls come in, they hit the scales within half an hour, job done, and we can all get ourselves off to the bar and enjoy and look forward to this fantastic card of UFC 264. Good to see Dustin Poirier on the scales first up.
156, the official weight for Dustin Poirier.
Looks incredible. 156
yeah.
pounds.
Wow.
First out as well, Nick. Big statement from Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, I think he made a statement yesterday at the press conference as well in the early hours of this morning.
Next
Should have
fighter
saying,
to the scale,
you know,
competing in a
he
Prelim
didn't let
live on
Conor
ESPN
affect him.
in the
He didn't let
UFC's
Conor get to him.
division.
Played his own game, kept his own focus. Reminded me a lot of Khabib. And then just like Khabib, boom, gets on the scales nice and early. Done, see you later. I'm back to my room and away from the circus. I like it. I like his attitude.
Now, when you tune into the prelims on BT Sport 2 at 1 o'clock in the morning, the first fight that you'll be greeted with is Trevin Giles against Dricus du Plessis. Nick, this geezer here, he's done extremely well. Former EFC champion, former KSW champion. Very well-rounded mixed martial artist is Dricus.
He is. He's outstanding. This is my tip for the fight of the night as well. 15 wins on his record, all finishes, 8 in the first round. This guy really is the prodigy of South African MMA. He's the main man.
185.5 for Dricus du Plessis.
There you go. On the money as well.
Can you believe he used to be a welterweight champion as well? Wow.
Looks like he's stacked on the muscle, man. It looks like he's styled on the muscle. Just in case you are just tuning in, maybe you're, you set your alarm a little bit late, like one of our co-presenters. That's the reason why he's not here. He's just running a touch late. Is Mr. Bisping. Fingers crossed he'll come to join us to give us some expert analysis as this weigh-in show does continue on BT Sport. I'll give you all the details as well as the show progresses. With how you can obviously watch UFC 264 on the BT Sport Network. Akhmedov is about to hit the scales. Interesting character, this fella.
Yeah.
Taking on Brad Tavares in his fight tomorrow.
Yeah, how did he ever get down? He's got a draw with Marvin Vettori, so we know he can compete at the top level. Obviously, that incredible submission of Tom Breese as well. I think that was his last fight. They're just cut differently in Dagestan, aren't they? They're just monsters.
185.5, the official weight for Omari Akhmedov.
Good to see. Listen, throughout the course of this show as well, we are taking your questions. So if you want to contribute, you're more than welcome to do so. You know how to interact with us on social media. You know all the BT Sport handles, whether it be Instagram or Twitter. Ping your questions our way, and we will keep the conversation going, even if it's about UFC London. All right?
The hybrid price.
Just don't ask us where Mike is, because we don't know.
We don't know where Mike is, but Nico Price taking on Michel Pereira. This was one of my tips on the prelims for a fight tonight, a potential for a bit of a bonus here. Nico Price is never in a dull fight. He is as tough as they come. Michel Pereira, I think he's kind of lost the craziness. He's kind of settled down a little bit, which kind of lends him to be a very dangerous contender in this division.
169.5 for Nico Price.
Look at the shape on him. The shape on Nico Price is just outrageous. Look how long the reach is on him. The guy is just, if you want to sculpt a fighter, it wouldn't look far off Nico Price, would it? Incredible record, 10 first round finishes in his career. You're right, man. That fight against Pereira is going to be fun.
It's going to be interesting to see how that does play out, because as I said, when he burst onto the scene, Pereira, it was all showmanship. It was all a bit flashy, wasn't it? But he seems to have calmed that down now, and it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on against the top contender, Nico Price. Zhalgas Zhumagulov on the scales there, taking on Jerome Riviera. That's on the early prelims. Got to be nice and early. These getting underway from around about 11 p.m. I think it works out at for UK fight fans. Prelims from 1, as I said, on BT Sport 2.
Pay-per-view tomorrow night, 5th ranked in the UFC's women's bantamweight division, Yana Kunitskaya.
Now then, this is a really interesting fight. Obviously part of the main card, taking on Irene Aldana. Massive clash of styles here, mate. It's basically a girl that likes to hit people against a girl that likes to grapple people. And this is the girl that likes to grapple people.
She can fight though, man. Very talented fighter. AT&T now as well. 12 years of pro. Loads of experience, former Invicta champion.
The official weight, 134.5 for Yana Kunitskaya.
Under championship weight, just letting everybody know. That's a big message as well, because Aldana missed weight.
All right, next fighter
has missed weight in her career.
His
so
UFC
little statements
debut
maybe.
Live on pay-per-view tomorrow night in the UFC's bantamweight division, Chris Mutino.
What an opportunity for this guy. He's tried to outdo Sugar Sean O'Malley in the hair stakes as well with the full-on Joker Illuminous green. I like it. Chris Moutinho making his UFC debut tomorrow.
He actually works at a paint factory, which maybe suggests that he's either fell in a bucket or he gets his hands on some decent colours.
135, the official weight for Chris Moutinho.
And do you know something?
He's up against it, but you're right, man. He can change his life, can't he? He can change his life. He's made weight. He can change his life tomorrow night. I love that.
All right, next fighter to the scale, former world title challenger, 7th ranked in the UFC flyweight division, Jessica Eye.
Now, this is interesting. On the early prelims, Jessica Eye, right down, taking on Jennifer Meyer in her fight in the women's flyweight division.
She's missed weight 2 out of the last 3 times she's stepped on the scales. So
125 and a half.
No wonder she's happy
for Jessica Eye.
Yeah, not to
no
them.
wonder she's happy. Yeah.
Just a quick one on Chris Moutinho, because he was a last-minute replacement. I honestly believe that when we started this show today, that we'd be waiting for him more so than waiting for Michael Bisping to come and join the show. Fair play to him for being on the money and obviously keeping himself in shape.
Welterweight division live on ESPN. Max Payne Griffin.
What an opportunity for Max Griffin as well. A guy that you would think the game plan is written out for him against Carlos Condit. Got a stat for you, Nick. You'll love this. I know Carlos Condit is one of your favourite fighters. Has been taken down more times than anyone else in UFC history. 57 in total. He has the second lowest takedown defence for anyone that has faced 50 attempts against them. And Griffin lands 50% of his takedowns. I kind of think I know how this fight's going to play out tomorrow.
Well, you know how Griffin wants it to play out anyway. He's missed 171 and a half. 171 and a half. He's not happy.
170 and a half. Wait for Max Griffin.
I like that. No. Wait me again.
Redo
no.
it. Yeah. We should all do that. Look at him giving a little fist bump to the geezer who's reading out the scales there. Fantastic stuff. We should all do that when things don't go our way.
Yeah. I like the way he's looking at his watch there as well. He's showing everyone his watch as if to say, listen, I'm down here nice and early. I've made weight. I'm serious. I'm coming for it because it's a big scalp, man. Carlos Condit, former interim champion, 2-time world title contender. Massive opportunity for Max Griffin.
Hu Yangzong about to hit the scales, taking on Alan Amodovsky in the middleweight division. This is going to be your first fight of the night on the early prelims. Coming to you from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
His nickname is Totoro, which is after the famous anime character.
For Hu Yaozong.
An anime character that I found out today. He looks like a giant bunny rabbit. For any anime fans out there, it'll back me up. Totoro! That's his nickname.
All right, next fighter to the scale, charged with opening the pay-per-view tomorrow night in the UFC's bantamweight division, Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Sugar Sean.
Do you know something? I kind of enjoyed my Instagram live with Sugar Sean this week. It's still available on the BT Sport Instagram. Make sure you go and check it out. He's such a cool, chilled, relaxed dude. I don't know what the weight cut was like for him, but I'm looking forward to him putting on a bit of a show tomorrow night.
The official weight, 135 and a half for Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, he finds himself in a weird position, Sugar Sean, doesn't he? Because he's kind of come under a lot of fire from the rest of the bantamweight division for taking on a newcomer when supposedly half the roster put their hands up to fight him. It's kind of, everyone thinks the UFC is giving him a bit of a favour, but the kid can change his life. So Sugar Sean's got to be switched on because the guy's going to come like it's cup final day.
BJJ Wizard, Ryan Hall. Yeah, absolutely. He's on the scales right now. Big fight, this. Cracking fight between him and Ilya Tapura.
145, the official weight for Ryan Hall.
How laid back he is.
I know. 36 years of age. Bit of a wizard on the mats, as everybody knows. And he's the first man ever to tap BJ Penn. Taking on Tapura.
Our next fighter to the scale, competing in a prelim live on ESPN,
talented, let's say, when it comes to the mats.
Division, Trevin Giles.
Poirier, though, one of the very few guys to put his hands up. Nobody wants to fight Ryan Hall.
Exactly. Trevin Giles taking on Dricus du Plessis. Plessis weighed in a little earlier on. Bang on weight. Used to be a police officer, this fella. Gave up the sport for a couple of years.
185 and a half for Trevin Giles.
But he's back in business and ready to rock and roll.
Looks good, man. Like Duplessis, 11 finishes in his 14 wins. He's on a 3-fight win streak. That is a good fight,
scale
man.
Is
good
weighing
fight.
in as a backup for tomorrow night's lightweight main event. He is the former undisputed UFC lightweight champion, Rafael dos Anjos.
Love that. You may have seen a tweet this week from Mr. McGregor. I'm not in, as you can see, if you watch regularly our programs, just get Rafael's
156, the official weight for Rafael dos Anjos.
Everybody knows that if you watch our regular programs, I have a poster in the background, which was supposed to be the main event for UFC 196 between Conor McGregor and Rafael dos Anjos, the fight that never happened. And Conor McGregor this week, after finding out that Rafael dos Anjos is the backup fighter.
The second-ranked UFC welterweight contender, Gilbert Durinho Burns.
Conor said, put dos Anjos in the cage at the same time. That's what I was referring to his tweet this week.
I had a chat with Gilbert yesterday. He's in good form, man. Nice big smile on his face.
170 he's and a half the official weight for Gilbert Durinho Burns.
Lovely.
Yeah.
He's in a real good place right now. Obviously, he lost to Kamaru Usman at the start of the year, but he did have his arm raised in April in a huge high-profile flow grappling BJJ match with Rafael Lovato Jr., which was huge for the BJJ community, and he actually won it. He was the underdog, and he won it. So he's in a good headspace, man, and I think he's feeling, you know what? Wonderboy's having an Indian summer, striking again. Maybe I'm going to revert back to type and pull guard and submit the guy. It's going to be interesting.
Well, it's styles make fights, that fight, isn't it? It's a guy that likes to fight up close against the guy that likes to fight at distance. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, especially over 15 minutes as well. Brad Tavares on the scales.
184 and a half, the official weight for Brad Tavares.
One thing I've noticed with a lot of people weighing in, that they are well and truly under a good pound and a half under the allotted weight for the various divisions. Obviously, you're allowed an extra pound in non-championship fights, and we don't have any championship fights on here. Everybody coming in at 184 point something or other. Looking good, man. Must be good diet out in Vegas, pal.
Must be nice and warm. Everyone getting the road work in, getting that weight off nice and easy. There's a couple of the girls here that haven't weighed in yet that have missed weight a few times that are worth keeping an eye on. But so far, so good. But listen, I won't rest easy, man, until Notorious gets on them scales. I thought he'd been one of the first on, I've got to be honest.
Well, if you are just joining us, Mike Bisping is not with us at the moment. Hopefully he will join us at some point. He's probably just enjoying that Vegas lifestyle. And Conor McGregor hasn't joined us as of yet. Dustin Poirier, first on the scales, though. First on the scales, coming in at 156 pounds. He's weighed in and he's off rehydrating right now. We've also seen Gilbert Burns come through, one half of the co-main event. Also on that main card, Yana Kunitskaya has come through good, as has Sean O'Malley and Chris Moutinho. They're both weighed in. So you're going to get the first fight on that main card, which kicks off at 3 o'clock in the morning on BT Sport Box Office. Available, by the way, if you want more information on how to purchase this UFC 264, head to bt.com/sport box office. So we're still waiting, of course, Notorious Conor McGregor and various other fighters. And I think it's only fair that we kind of then get stuck back into the conversation that we wanted to do right at the start of the show. Between these two men, obviously a trilogy. Nick, here, I've got some stats for you, pal, which will hopefully start to generate a bit of conversation. And I'd like to encourage people watching this, wherever you're watching it in the world, please interact with us. You can do it via Twitter, do it via Instagram. If you've got questions or anything that you want to talk about, ping them our way and we will get stuck into that conversation. There have been 12 trilogy fights in the UFC unified. 8 of 12 have seen fighters tied 1-1 going into that third and final encounter. The winner of the second fight went on to win 6 of the 8 battles. Who was the last man? Who was the last loser? This is the best way of phrasing it. Who was the best loser to win an immediate rematch in the UFC? You've guessed it, the one and only Conor McGregor. Don't come out with DC and Stipe as an immediate rematch. If you remember, DC fought Derek Lewis in the interim before he took Stipe Miocic on again. And then obviously in that second fight was defeated. But the last losing fighter to win an immediate rematch was indeed Conor McGregor. Can he do it again, Nick? Can he turn that side again? And can he get the job done against Dustin Poirier and kind of go against the stats that I've just been speaking about?
Yeah, listen, if anyone can do it, if anyone can reinvent themselves again, it's Conor McGregor, because what he's done consistently throughout his career is proven people wrong and proven that he can continue to climb. The issue I've got at the moment, and I literally picked it up in the last 12 hours or so, 24 hours, that's making me question the fact that I've backed Conor for a quick and early knockout, was just that press conference. I think the press conference told us a lot about where they both are psychologically. Conor came out all guns blazing, trash talking, trying to goad Dustin, trying to get Dustin angry. And just Dustin Poirier is just not that guy anymore. He was a lot more like Habib than he was Dustin in the first fight, or Jose, or even Eddie Alvarez. He was a lot more calm and composed, and I think in his mindset now, he knows, listen, don't get caught up in Conor's world. Words are just words. They're never going to hurt me. Once we get in the octagon and the cage door closes, it's me against the guy that I stopped at the start of the year. That's all he probably reciting to himself in his head. Let's not get involved. Now, part of the show and the entertainment and Conor's outbursts, of course, is to G Conor up, to get Conor motivated, to make sure that Conor starts fast as well. So I'm not completely writing off my original prediction on the fight, but it was really intriguing just to see Dustin completely and utterly rise above it, and he's done it again here by getting on the scales. He's long gone, and we're still waiting for Conor.
I'm glad you brought up that last point there regarding the press conference, because that's my takeaway from it. Yes, of course, Conor was being Conor, and Conor was saying the things that he wants to say. And I think that they were being deflected quite good, actually, by Dustin. And it felt at certain times that Conor was kind of...
The other man around whom this fight was built,
the former I'll pick that point up again in a moment,
UFC
too.
Champion, the iconic, the notorious Conor McGregor.
I'm going to stay quiet during this, because I think it deserves the gravitas. Here's Conor on the scales.
The official weight, 156 pounds for Conor McGregor.
Now, Conor has spoken about that throughout the whole course of the week. If you remember last time when we were in Abu Dhabi, Nick, he weighed in at championship weight, 155 pounds, and certain things that he has said this week, that there will be no give-me's. I'm not going to give you anything extra. We're going to time this to perfection. And he said, I'm not coming in at 155, I'm coming in at 156. I know it's only £1, but that's what I'm going to do. And he stuck to that word. He seems, like I said, off the back of the press conference yesterday, he's incredibly invested in this. And there was a lot of things I took away from that yesterday, where he is trying to, with the things that he was saying, it was like he was trying to remind himself of who he is at certain times in that conversation. And listen, whatever you've got to do to get yourself up for a fight, that's on you. But it felt like he was just trying to convince himself that he was still the man yesterday a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, I've known tons of fighters over the years that become their alter ego, that become a different person when the cameras are there, when it's time to fight, and I truly believe Conor didn't realise himself the amount of how much he needs to become notorious. On Fight Island, he was 100% Conor McGregor. He was dad, he was brother, he was son, he was husband or partner, he was everything to all men, where the key to producing the best performances inside the fighting arena is for him to become notorious. And notorious can't switch on and then off to pick up his son or his daughter. He has to be in a certain mindset. He has to disrespect his opponent. He has to look down on the rest of the field, the rest of the entire roster, look down his nose at them, that he is the king. He is the guy that's changed this sport, nobody else. That's what makes him him. That's what brings out the best in Conor McGregor. And that's what I saw in the press conference. I saw a return to that. Yes, it didn't affect Dustin. Dustin didn't bite. Dustin didn't get involved. And people are writing that off and saying, oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. But that's not the point. That's only part of it. It's Conor getting in the right mindset to go to battle. He's ready for battle now. He's got his broadsword out. As our pal Dan Hardy would say, he's got his broadsword out. He's got his shield on. And he's ready for war. He's in war mindset.
It convinces me even more that he's coming out fast. We know that Conor always comes out fast. We know that he throws those hurtful shots right from the first bell. But I'm just convinced even more that he's going to come out like a bull. It's going to be fast if Conor is to obviously have his hand raised in this fight. And I'm not nailing myself to the mast there saying that will happen, because Dustin is an elite level mixed martial artist and he's proved that he can ride that storm as he did in Abu Dhabi. But I think this will be a very different version of Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I don't think he'll come out like Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, he was like Jose Aldo. If you remember, he was basically running across the octagon to get to Dustin. Herb Dean was holding him back. At one point, he sent him back to his corner. Get back. We're not ready yet. And then as soon as the fight started, he more or less sprint to Dustin Poirier. I don't think we'll see that approach. But you're right. You will see him straight away, sent to the octagon. This is my space. I own this. But I think it'll be a lot more bouncing on his toes. Maybe he might even do what he did in the first fight, spinning back kick just to get things going, let Dustin know, get him feel for it. And then I think it'll be calculated left hands, set up, left hands, feints, jabs, body kicks, teep kicks, the old Conor McGregor. That's what he needs to do.
I agree. He'll be kick heavy, and I think this fella will be kick heavy as well. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on the scales in the co-main event, taking on Gilbert Burns. Gilbert came through a little earlier on. Let's see where Stephen's at.
170.5, the official weight for Stephen Thompson.
Just a quick one on Stephen Thompson, because a lot of people will look at this fight and they'll see grappler against elite level striker, a guy that wants obviously to keep this on the feet against a guy that wants to get up close and personal, who can bang a bit in Gilbert Burns, of course, but you would think that he would want to have those grappling exchanges. Thompson was taken down 5 times in his Matt Brown fight.
Challenger, number 4 in the world, Jennifer
I'll come back to that point in a minute. Let's get Jennifer Maia weighed in before I come back to that point on Stephen Thompson. But Jennifer Maia, again, right down the card, early prelims, taking on Jessica I. Jessica I weighed in a touch earlier on.
Missed 2 of the last 4. Settle down. We're close.
The official weight, 125.5 for Jennifer Maia.
Well, there was a moment of concern there.
Yes, there was, just as she put the old arms up. But just a quick one on Stephen Thompson. Thompson was taken down 5 times in his Matt Brown fight, which is his second UFC fight since that time where he was dumped on his backside 5 times in a fight. He has stuffed 17 of 19 takedowns attempts. I think he's going to need that in this fight with Gilbert Burns. Yeah, it's only 15 minutes, but I think Gilbert's going to be looking to shut that distance and get hold of him and try and wrestle him down to the mat. Wonderboy's takedown defense is very, very good, Nick.
It's outstanding. But you've also got Gilbert Burns, who is an outstanding jiu-jitsu fighter if he can get it down there. When I spoke to Gilbert yesterday, I said exactly the same thing, and he agreed. That is exactly the style makeup. But he's not going to be in there rushing to pull guard. He even said, Wonderboy Thompson's got sensational takedown defense. But what he has been working on in camp, and this is something that he's notorious for as well as jiu-jitsu, this is gas tank. He is going to be relentless. And he said he's going to set a pace that Wonderboy can't live with. He's going to get his head on that chest, and he's going to wing away.
Also on the main card, Irene Aldana taking on Yana Kutsky. Kutsky came through a little earlier on. Aldana is ranked 9th on the women's all-time significant strike list. That's across every single weight division. Likes to throw hands, this girl. Let's see where she's at weight-wise.
She did miss weight back in 2016, but that was a while ago now. She's missed.
Are we getting the towel out? What are we doing? How much has she missed by? Nobody read anything out for us.
139.5. The official weight for Irene Aldana.
Wow.
That's a big miss. That's failing to make. As you say, Nicholas, that is not missing weight. That's failing to make. Obviously, she was allowed 136, but she's coming at 139.
139.5, didn't he say? 3.5 pounds over. That's huge. As I say, she has missed weight before, but it was way back in 2016. And
next fighter to the scale in the UFC's
since then, she's been on an incredible run. You know, obviously she lost to Holly Holm last time out. But prior to that, she was on a great run. That's a big hit for Aldana. That.
Your mate's here, by the way. For those that haven't seen this, Nick and Taito Avasa hit Instagram up. I thought they were basically arranging a date at one point. I thought they were going to go out for a few beers.
I've got a shoey ready. I've got a shoey ready. Shoey if he makes weight.
The official weight, 263
Good character,
pounds for Tai Tuivasa.
Oh, he's just made weight. Well done, lad.
I asked him yesterday, I said, in all seriousness, Ty, I said, would you rather get knocked out or win on points? And he said, yeah, categorically, I'd rather get carried out. Winning on points is the most embarrassing thing you can do as a fighter. I was like, wow, you're cut from a different cloth, mate. He went, if I went back to my neighbourhood after a win on points, I'd rather get carried out to the octagon. Unbelievable. I think he meant it.
Yeah, I'm the latter, sadly. I'd take the points decision victory all day long rather than getting carried out on the stretcher. Really interesting character. Definitely go and check out that Instagram interview that Nick did with him. It's available on the BT Sport Instagram page. He's one of the most likable heavyweights, isn't he? So it's interesting from a character point of view because you've got obviously what would be projected as the good guy in Tai Tuivasa against what is the ultimate heel in the heavyweight division in Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy, no doubt, got a little bit of respect, didn't he, when he went out to Moscow and he took on Alexander Volkov. Yes, he came up short, but nobody else was sticking their hand up to do that fight, and he put his hand up and he went out there, and I've no doubt he learned an awful amount in that particular fight. It's going to be a cracking knock, this. Real good knock. Yeah. Both guys probably at very similar stages. They want to break into that conversation of becoming a contender. They're a bit off, the big boys, just as of yet. But what a great fight to have added to UFC 264.
It's a cracker because, you know one of them's getting bingoed. You know one of them's getting knocked out, and I think Ty even appreciated that. He was like, listen, man, I'm just gonna throw down. And everything I've seen from Greg Hardy this week, he said the same thing. The reason I jumped at this fight is because I know this guy doesn't want to take me down. There ain't going to be no grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. This guy wants to knock me out, and I want to knock him out. So we'll see who lands first. Come on. If that's not main card UFC, then what is? That's a highlight reel. That's a viral moment right there. And I have to agree with them. I think it doesn't get out of the second round. And it's going to be fun.
Should be a lot of fun. Listen, we're near enough half an hour through the UFC 264 official weigh-ins. There will be ceremonials later on, which will be available on the BT Sport YouTube page, no doubt, and we'll keep across it all over our social media. This main event, this main card gets underway from 3 a.m. in the early hours of Sunday morning. Make sure you come and join us on BT Sport box office. For further information of how you purchase this event and this card, head to bt.com/sport box office. The prelims, by the way, will be available on BT Sport 2 from 1 a.m. in the morning. Just a quick update on the weigh-ins. The main event is done and dusted. They've come through. Dustin Poirier was the first on the scales on the money at 156, as was Conor McGregor a little later on. I think he passed through about 5-6 minutes ago. But Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor have weighed in, and it is done and dusted. As is the co-main event, Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson coming through for the welterweight clash. We've seen Tai Tuivasa. We haven't seen Greg Hardy as of yet. Irene Aldana is the only fighter so far to have missed badly as well. 3.5 pounds coming in at 139.5. She takes on Yana Kunitskaya, who weighed in earlier. And the main card is completed with Sean O'Malley and Chris Moutinho, who both came through on the money as well. On the prelims, if you're interested in this, we're still waiting for Carlos Condit, Michel Pereira, Iya Topuria, and on the early prelims, Alan Amadovsky, Jerome Rivera as well, still to come through, which kind of leads us on nicely to continue with some of the conversations that you are obviously instigating via our Instagram and our Twitter. This is a fully interactive show. Yes, I know that you've probably just tuned in and gone, where's Bisping? We're asking the same thing. Listen, we sent him to Vegas. We haven't heard anything since. That's all we know. All right? He's enjoying himself. Hopefully, at some point, he'll check his phone. He'll know that we've been ringing him, and he'll come and join us for a bit of a chinwag. You never know. Hopefully, he will be here for the review show after the event of UFC 264 at the weekend. Should be a good one. Listen, I know that we're bigging it up, and it's very easy to big an event up that involves Conor McGregor. And in fact, before I make that point, let's get stuck into a couple of messages that are coming in from people, because I think it's only fair that whilst we've got a little bit of break, we can do that. Lou Doc, thank you very much for your social interaction here, mate. What can McGregor do to defend those brutal leg kicks? Well, if you watch, and I fully advise anybody who is paying attention to us do this live stream right now, if you watch Dan Hardy's breakdown video, which is available on the YouTube channel. It's sensational. It's probably one of the best things I've watched from a technical masterclass. It's like Dan Hardy has been allowed back into an octagon. You know, we've been living in these COVID times for such a long period of time, Nick. He's been away from a proper studio. He's been cutting these videos in his house and what have you. We gave him an octagon, we gave him a warehouse, and he went to town on it. Fair enough, he brought his missus as well, and she had a wonderful excuse to give him a good hiding during some of the demonstrations. But one of the things that Dan points out in that breakdown is that, listen, those kicks aren't going away. They're going to be there, but what you need to do is offset them. You can check them if you want, but offset them by barreling a big left hand right down the middle. Every time that kick comes in low, throw that big left hand right down the middle and give him something to think about. That's the thing, isn't it? You've got to give, Conor McGregor is to defend, as Ludoc's saying there on the social media, if he's going to defend those kicks, I think the best way of doing it is give Dustin Poirier something to think about that's going to come back the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be surprised if Dustin doesn't even throw any of those kicks. You know, I think everyone's getting a little bit caught up in the fact that, you know, that was the main weapon which kind of did the damage, according to Conor McGregor, that losing the feeling in his leg was what was the ultimately unfolded in that fight and resulted in being knocked out. But that's just one facet of Dustin Poirier's game. Yes, it's a bit of a calling card of ATT fighters. They're all great leg kickers. But, you know, when I spoke to Mike Brown, and he was like, it's not like we went, oh, Conor's wide open for leg kicks. It was never a game plan. They never planned it beforehand. Just during the fight, you're feeling it out. You throw a leg kick, it lands. You throw another one. Okay, he's not checking that. That's basically how it came about. Now, of course, you know, I think if Dustin is going to throw a leg kick early, you would expect Conor to either make him pay for it, as you say, or even just check it. And I think there might be some communication between the two of them then. But don't be surprised if Conor is the guy who throws the first leg kick in this one, just to let Dustin know, you know, that he can kick as well. Because that used to be a huge part of Conor's game. Those leg kicks, low leg kicks, and teeps to the chest were a huge part of Conor setting up those left hands. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see if the roles were reversed a little bit.
That's the key thing, isn't it? From the second fight in particular, if you compare the second fight and the first fight, there's a lot of setups with the kicks. I know that maybe if you don't follow a lot of mixed martial arts, you'll think that he's actually throwing some of those kicks to be hurtful, damaging shots. Yeah, of course, on certain occasions he's doing that. But what he's doing, he's trying to create some type of smoke and mirrors to keep you occupied. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to distract you from what he really wants to do. And what he really wants to do is land that big left hand. That's what he wants to do. And he does it with spinning stuff all the time. If you look at the first fight, he does it quite a lot. In the second fight, it's not there at all. He was very boxing heavy, and it's well documented that he was preparing for a fun fight, if we can call it that, with Manny Pacquiao, which I'm sure would have made quite a lot of money. But he was very boxing heavy. He was heavy on that front foot, and that's what, in the end, kind of played damage. Because if he was light on his feet, if he was in that karate stance, I don't think the damage would have been half as bad to the front leg. It's because he had that leg planted and he was taking those shots full on. I agree with you, mate. I think he's coming out light. I think we're going to go back to old school Conor. He'll be bouncing on his toes, very similar to what we expect from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson type of fight, a Darren Till type of fight, for example. Very light on the feet, bouncing around. Lots of feints. There was nothing in the second fight. Lots of feints, trying to get his opponent to bite, throwing stuff that is smoke and mirrors, and following it up left. That's what I'm personally expecting from him. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, and because at this point in his career, and this comes on nicely now to the question there from Daddy Supreme, who's asked, is this the most important fight for Conor's legacy? Yes, it is. Of course it is. And you could say that about every fight, of course. But I think this one, he needs to get this one back. You know, I think with all due respect to Dustin Poirier, again, probably the best 155er on the planet right now. But no one's putting Dustin Poirier in the greatest of all time conversation. Whereas Conor McGregor, if for nothing else, his impact on pop culture has certainly got to be in the conversation because of what he did inside the octagon, but also what he's done outside of it. But I think if your legacy has got 2 losses to Dustin Poirier on there on a rubber match, certainly with a knockout as well, never mind what happens on tomorrow night, then I think it's going to be really tough for Conor's legacy to bounce back from that. Yes, he will always be the guy that blew the ceiling off of the earning potential of a mixed martial artist, the guy that brought more eyeballs to this sport than anybody in history. But Conor wants more than that. Conor wants parity with the greats. He wants to be spoken of alongside Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre and John Jones and Habib and people that are judged just by their achievements inside the octagon as well. I think a victory over Dustin Poirier here, because it's part of the narrative as well. Again, it's not just because it's Dustin Poirier. It's because the guy's had 3 fights in 5 years and lost 2 of them. He went away and did boxing. He turned up out of shape. He fights now every 18 months or whatever it is. I think his average is 1 fight every 18 months. To be able to bounce back and beat the number 155-pounder on the planet with all that going on as well, that's a sign of true greatness. And I think Conor's legacy will massively benefit from that.
Yeah, I think it's unfair the way that people kind of look at what Conor's done inside the octagon because of what's happened outside the octagon. I think they're distracted by it, all the money that he has made from whiskey and various business deals. Fair play to him. He's a sharp guy. He knows how to do the business side of this game and maximize all his earning potentials. He's done extremely well with that. But don't let that deter from what he did inside the octagon. The run at 145 pounds where he became the featherweight champion, becoming the first simultaneous multi-weight world champion was absolutely sensational. I saw a question in the press conference yesterday. The guy with the illuminous pink jacket spoke to Conor, didn't he? And he says, "You've won once since Barack Obama became president," or something. And Conor obviously took offense to that. And I think he's right to take offense to that because when you talk about the greatest of all time in the UFC, a name that will always come up as part of the conversation is Anderson Silva, right? Anderson Silva won 1 fight in 8 years at the end of his career, but he's still involved in that conversation. We'll pick this up in a minute. Let's just go through this. Obviously, Tapia is here, taking on Ryan Hall. A fantastic stylistic matchup, this.
Yeah.
Talented lad.
This guy can fight, man. 10-0, undefeated.
145.5, the official weight for Ilia Topuria.
There you go.
He's one of very few guys that put the hands up to fight Ryan Hall. Why? Because he's outstanding. He's German. He's a Georgian, born in Germany, but he's actually trained out of Alicante in Spain. Undefeated in 10 fights. Looks absolutely outstanding. And it's not on his record, but it should be. He actually fought for the Cage Warriors title and won with a first round anaconda choke, but never got the belt because he missed weight on the scales. That was down at bantamweight. He's now obviously campaigning as a featherweight, so he should have Cage Warriors champion as part of his resume as well. He is no joke to Porter. That is the sleeper on the card. That could be an outstanding fight.
It's on your prelims, that second fight in, straight after the Trevin Giles fight. Ryan Hall and Ilia Topuria will go at it. 1 a.m. in the morning is when the prelims get underway on BT Sport 2. Just going back to Conor and that conversation about what I said regarding the press conference yesterday, where the guy stands up, he says, "You've won 1 fight since Barack Obama became the president." Again, Conor took offense to it, and I think he's right to do so because it's unfair to obviously say that, especially when you're talking about the greatest of all time status. Anderson Silva, for example, he's always in the conversation for the greatest of all time. Many people can make that argument as to him being the greatest of all time, but in his last 8 years in the UFC, he won 1 fight. That hasn't diminished that conversation. So I don't think that should diminish Conor's role in this as well. What he's done inside the octagon has been truly sensational. The only reason he's been allowed to make the amount of money outside of the octagon is because of what he did inside the octagon during that rocket ship of a spell at 145 pounds and then stepping up to beat Eddie Alvarez to become the 155-pound champion. Of course, people will say, well, he never defended this, he never defended that, he never did this. But come on. People just love to hate at the end of the day, don't they? He is an elite level mixed martial artist, and tomorrow night, it is a big, big night for him to cement that legacy. I think tomorrow night could be, including Aldo, including Alvarez, tomorrow night, if he wins and he wins in sensational fashion, it could be his best win.
Yeah.
First fight of the night on the prelims, this.
186, the official weight for Alan Amadovsky.
Given where Conor's at, Nick, in his life, and what he's already achieved and what have you, a victory tomorrow night, where would you rank it personally amongst these accolades inside the octagon?
I think right now it feels like the biggest thing. I think right now if he was to win that, I would kind of put it, as mad as it sounds, because of the journey he's on, because of how conclusively he was beaten back on Fight Island by Poirier. He stopped for the first time, knocked out. It feels like it's going to be the biggest thing because he went into the Aldo fight. Yes, Jose Aldo, undefeated in 10 years. Everything that went with it. We had the global press tour and everything else. But going into that fight, I was well and truly riding the momentum going, Conor's going to do him. Conor's going to do this guy. I was bought in. And then by the time he eventually, the Nate Diaz delay and everything else, the rematch, and then he eventually got his hands on a lightweight title shot with Eddie Alvarez, I was convinced he would beat Eddie Alvarez as well. This fight's different because the bookies have got Conor as an underdog for a reason. They too look at what Dustin did to him. They've obviously looked at how Dustin's handled media week this week and being around the press and being in Vegas, and he hasn't bit. He's been completely chilled and he looks fine. So I think people are going, okay, well, all he's got to do is ride out the quick storm that will be Conor McGregor, and then it's going to be all Dustin Poirier. I get it. So for that reason, I think if Conor turns up, Conor reverts to Mystic Mac, does a number on him, stops Poirier, which in my opinion he's got to do. He can't win it on the cards. If he stops him inside 10 minutes, then I genuinely think it could be the biggest win of his career. Now, from here, he could well go on and fight Charles Oliveira. He could even knock out Charles Oliveira. He then could do something else sensational, and we could get another 3 or 4 or even 5 years of Conor McGregor in competition. And then we look back, and suddenly the win over Dustin Poirier, the trilogy win over Dustin Poirier, may not stand out as much as everything else. But right here, right now, in fight week, I can only say how I feel. And right now, I feel like this will be the biggest win of his career.
Jake Elliott, thank you very much for this on social media. Just in case you are watching this live stream, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier have both weighed in. They're both on the money. They're both rehydrating as we speak. And we have a main event. We also have a co-main event as well because Gilbert Burns and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson came through all good. The only person to miss weight so far is Irene Aldana. She missed it badly, 139.5 pounds for a fight with Yana Kunitskaya. That's on the main card, available on BT Sport box office. But if you are just joining us, thank you very much for that. And it is a fully interactive show, so you can send us your questions. If there's topics that you want to talk about, i.e. interim heavyweight titles, we'll get to that in a minute. But you're more than welcome to ping them our way, and we'll keep the conversation going and you can interact with us. Jake Elliott, thank you, mate. Who matches up better against Oliveira? Do you know?
Depends who you are.
Yeah. Let's take away the Allegiant Stadium. Take away the Allegiant Stadium. Take away the bright lights and all that. Let's just talk about the fighting on a car park, Nick. Right? It's just one man against one man. Matchup wise, I think it'd be. I think it's a very similar thing actually for Conor that he's facing this weekend. I think it's a very similar thing. He's got 5-10 minutes to knock the dude out, and then it becomes a bit of a dirty one, and he might get dragged into some deep waters with the chokes and various things that Oliveira offers. I like the matchup of Oliveira and Poirier. Just technical. They can both do everything very similar to the same levels. I think. I think as a fight, excitement-wise, I think the Conor fight's more exciting.
Well, just because it's Conor, of course, and there's two completely contrasting styles there. You've got a knockout merchant against a submission fighter, so it's a throwback UFC type event. I think if you're Charles Oliveira, even money aside, financial gain aside, I think he wants Conor McGregor to win, because Conor McGregor, if you're Charles Oliveira, there's a gaping hole to win the fight. If you can get inside, if you can get him down and you can get him on the ground, just like Nate Diaz did eventually, if you can tire him out and shoot on him and take him down, then, he's in incredibly deep water with the guy with the most submissions in UFC history. So Team Oliveira, I think, are rooting for Conor McGregor this weekend.
I agree.
And that's just because they want to retain the title. Throw on top of that, of course, it's Conor McGregor. It's Conor McGregor change your life forever type money. Then it's the perfect fight. I think a much tougher fight, a much tougher matchup for Charles Oliveira is absolutely Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin is a lot more well-rounded. That's not to say I think Conor's a better striker, but I think as a fully rounded mixed martial artist, I think Dustin's got the ground game, if you like. And to be fair, it's activity. Dustin's been active. He's been in big fights. And I think he would roll straight into that Oliveira matchup as favourite.
I agree with everything that you've just said regarding the matchups, but there's one big thing then that we've got to add to this, because this is not taking place in a car park. It'll probably take place in the Allegiant Stadium. It will take place in front of 60,000 mad screaming Conor McGregor fans, if it is Conor McGregor, of course. And that is massive. Can Charles Oliveira deal with that? Because there's not a lot of people on the planet that can, mate.
Exactly, and of course he was outstanding against Michael Chandler, and he silenced a lot of criticism about early in his career tapping to strikes, things like that, looking for a way out. You'd like to think his mindset has changed, but he's also achieved his dream now. He is a champion. He's done it. He's carrying the belt around Brazil right now, being, and he's achieved his dream. To suddenly come back to Vegas to fight inside the Death Star, as Conor keeps calling it, 60,000 wild Irishmen in there, the carnival atmosphere, the kind of media attention that Charles, never mind's not seen it before. He hasn't even dreamed of the amount of media that would be, and demands, and the pressure that Conor McGregor Fight Weeks brings. And then Conor turns up the way he does, trash talking and everything else. I truly believe Cowboy would be like a deer in the headlights, and I think it would be the worst possible outcome. I could see a Jose Aldo, style, or Eddie Alvarez style outcome. I truly could. I can see that happening. Whereas I think Dustin brings a little bit less heat, a little bit less show, and I think Oliveira's got more of a chance of beating Dustin. Ironically, after what I've just said about the stylistic matchup, I think Dustin's probably a more straightforward fight for Charles Oliveira.
I think they're both great fights, though, man. Thank you very much for your question on that. Let's talk Fight Pod. There you go. These guys interact with us quite a lot, actually, on this show. So thank you very much. Let's talk Fight Pod. Hope the pod's going well for you. If Wonderboy wins, does he leapfrog to #1 contender? Right, I know what you're doing. Because I know that Leon Edwards is watching this show, right? You're trying to trip me up. You're trying to create a viral moment on video so you can send to Leon and say, look what Catterall said about you, son. Well, let me just say this. Nobody deserves a shot at the title at welterweight.
Can you still hear me? Can I hear you, or can you hear me? Is this Bisping cutting on? Yeah, I can't hear Adam, but apparently you may well be able to hear me. Let me answer that question then. Wonderboy wins. Does he leapfrog the #1 contender?
Just let me check. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, I think you got cut off there because you were waxing lyrical about Leon, and for some reason, I don't think the producers liked it. Answer the question is what they said in my ear. Answer the question, Nick. So I will answer the question for the boys at Let's Talk. And that is the fact that I believe, yes, the manner of the victory for me is key. I think a split decision victory for Wonderboy. I think the road is then wide open for Colby Covington to walk straight into that rematch, that second fight with the champion. I think if Stephen Wonderboy Thompson gets a sensational finish or even a completely one-sided points decision, then does the one thing we love on this show, and he rocks the microphone as well and calls out the champ. I think he gets it. Because, yeah, man, I think Kamaru Usman...
He ain't doing the smack talk. He won't do the smack talk.
No, he won't do the smack talk, but he's got to say, listen, you beat everybody else. I'm the only guy at the top of the welterweight division, Mr. Usman, he'll probably call him because he's so polite, Mr. Usman. I'm the only guy you've never beaten. I've had 3 big wins now in a row. I've hardly lost a round. Please do me the honor of challenging for the 170 belt. He's going to kill him with kindness. That's what Wonderboy does. He'll slay Burns, kill Usman with kindness. And I tell you what, the champions have a real say in who they fight next, especially one as dominant as Kamaru Usman. He has a say. He gets to say to Dana, that works, that doesn't work, because he's earned that right because he's so dominant. And I think if Wonderboy does the job on Gilbert Burns, and it's a big ask, but if he does, I think he gets the next title shot, definitely.
I agree. It all comes down to the manner of the victory, doesn't it? If it's a viral knockout, if it's one of those beautiful head kick knockouts from back in the day, if he does something flashy, then all of a sudden the fans are also going to clamber for it as well. Because I think everybody's on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's side. He's such a lovely fella. He's 38 years of age now. Yes, I know he's had a couple of shots at the title with the fights with Tyron Woodley. But come on, man. He's a beautiful, beautiful fighter to watch. But just before our producers did cut me off, I just want to say, nobody deserves a shot at the title more than Leon Edwards. Fact. End of. All right? I'll leave it at that. But this is show business. And if Wonderboy puts in a performance that captures the imagination tomorrow night, expect the noise. Expect the noise. Now then, I am Rodrigo Walls on social media. Thank you very much. Where does Stipe fit into the heavyweight picture now? Oh, mate, why have you done this to me? Why have you done this? Because Stipe watches the show as well, right? You've thrown us all under the bus here. I am Rodrigo Walls. Where does Stipe fit into the heavyweight picture now? John Jones is where he fits in, mate. John Jones. That's who's welcoming John Jones to heavyweight, seeing as that this interim title has caused an absolute stink fest. Let's be straight, it has, hasn't it? The interim title has caused a stink fest. Everything was planned out nicely. It was looking very, very simple. It was looking like Ngannou was going to fight Lewis. Then maybe Stipe Miocic might have gone in there by the end of the year. And then Jones is ready for the middle of next year. Bish, bash, bosh. That's how it was all going to play out with these other sharks, these other contenders like Cyril Gane and our very own Ton Aspinall, just underneath, just having a little bit of a knock between themselves, yeah? Not anymore. Now that we've thrown this interim title in the mix, not only has it caused a bit of confusion and added an extra name in Cyril Gane very early on in his career, listen, I've no problem with that, but it also has delayed the process because we thought that we were going to get Ngannou and Lewis in September. I can't see him turning round a heavyweight clash in 6 weeks off the back of the August fight between these two guys that are fighting for this interim title. So therefore, that knocks it back a little bit further. Stipe Miocic is well within his rights to be waiting for a rematch for the title. He was the most dominant champ. He was the best champ. And I have no problem whatsoever with them giving him an opportunity to be rematching Francis Ngannou, if Francis Ngannou should remain champion, given the guys now that are fighting for this interim title. And by the way, Nick, all of this is in the shadow of John Jones. Let's be straight. It's all in the shadow of John Jones. Because when Johnny Bones Jones says go, you know they're going to go. Simple.
Yeah. Well, they're going to go because it's going to cost them more. It's going to cost them an arm and a leg to make it go. But at some point, they've got to come to a deal. They've got to come to an agreement with John Jones. You know, the sport needs John Jones. We need to see him at heavyweight. You know, he's one of the biggest pay-per-view stars in the whole of mixed martial arts and has been for an awful long time. You know, a lot of people, including myself, still consider him the greatest natural talent we've ever seen in the sport. And it's a shame that he's been on the sidelines for so long. Listen, it will get sorted. Now, in terms of Stipe, you're right, man. The most successful heavyweight champion we've ever had. He was good enough to give Francis a crack at that shot, another crack at the belt. And I think the fact that he's lost the belt, he couldn't have argued if he'd got an immediate rematch. I think Francis is enjoying being champion, and he's deserved that as well because he was completely and utterly besotted with winning that belt. And it's nice that he's been able to, go back home, spend a lot of time in Africa, taking the belt around Cameroon and everything else. It's imperative. That's all part of the sport's growth, and I fully support that. But he is back in Vegas now. He is training again now. And it's just surprised me that they couldn't turn him around a little bit sooner. Promoting Gane up to a interim title fight in August makes me feel like the heavyweight champion is going to be out of action until October, November at the earliest, which is a shame. But we're going to have a number one contender. We're not going to have a guy, we're certainly not going to have an interim champion in the UFC and have an active current champion as well. The UFC just don't work like that. If there's an interim champion, then when the champ comes back, he faces that guy next, which means Jones is not fighting until next year. And looks like Stipe is probably not going to fight until next year either, because I can't see Stipe fighting anybody but the champion.
Interesting stuff. It's going to be fascinating to see how all this plays out in the heavyweight division, which is supposed to be the stellar division. We want to see the best against the best. It's just murkied the water a little bit, that interim title. David here, You know what he's going to say, Dave. Why have you done this? Why have you gone for trouble causing? England versus Italy, Poirier versus McGregor. Who wins? Question mark. And that's coming via this stream. So thank you very much, mate. And like I said, this show is fully interactive. You're more than welcome to come and join us and throw your questions. And you can even, as David's doing now, navigate the conversation and send us off on little tangents. We'll do football first then. I'm surprised that you've not turned up in a Toto Schillaci top and a little Roberto Baggio wig with a little rat tail mullet out the back, mate. You know what I mean? That's what I thought that you'd be dressed as today.
I'm saving it. I'm saving it till Sunday. I'm saving me Italy top until Sunday. But yeah, obviously, I think anyone that follows me on social media is aware that I'm rooting against England just for giggles. So yeah, I'm going for Italy. I'm going for Italy on pens, just so it's even more heartbreaking. That'll be hilarious.
You are horrible. Why are you doing that? You're just a horrible man. Listen,
I'm going to double it up with a Conor McGregor knockout as well.
Listen, what I will say, and people have obviously tuned in to talk UFC here. They haven't tuned in to talk football other than David, who's causing mayhem here, right? What I will say is that England versus Italy is the perfect final. I think you're going to get a fantastic game of football. Spain had just kept the ball. They just kept it forever, and we would never have seen it. This will be a good game of football. Both teams can win. Obviously, that's an obvious statement, but I think both are good enough to beat the other. I think we'll get a cracking game. I think we'll get a cracking final. It'll be edgy seat stuff, squeaky bum time. I'll go England penalties. That's what I'm going to go. We've got to do one on pens, haven't we? Let's win the Euros on pens. Come on.
Yeah, Spain had played England off the park, I think. So yeah, I'm going to go with pens as well, but I'm going to go with Italia. Absolutely.
And you're going McGregor first round?
I'm still going with McGregor inside. No, I'm going second round. I'm going inside 10 minutes. I think he's going to be a little bit more patient in that first round. I think he'll win the first round like he did on Fight Island, and I just think he'll be a little bit more pressured, a little bit more educated, and I can see him getting a finish in the second round.
As everybody knows, on the breakdown show, which is available on our YouTube channel, go and check it out. It's just a great debate. Dan Hardy, Darren Till, True Geordie, and me and this lad getting stuck into all different aspects of this main event. We were split there, weren't we? I mean, I think True Geordie and Darren went for Poirier. You and Dan went for McGregor. Yeah. And then I made the ridiculous statement of saying, anybody see this fight going the distance? Just me then. And to be fair, I stand by the argument that I made on the show as to why I saw that it might go the distance. But the more I see these two guys this week, the more I see them interact with each other, the more I see them talk, especially Conor. There's not a cat in hell's chance it goes full. We're not getting 25 minutes, mate. Someone's going out. Someone's going out properly. Yeah. Completely agree with you. Completely agree. What have we got here now? Jaden Keogh. Thank you very much, Jaden, for this on Twitter, mate. Where does Justin Gaethje fit into the lightweight division? Why are people asking us all the difficult questions today? Like we're trying to get us in trouble with Dana and the blooming matchmakers. Listen, I kind of like going to the Apex and interviewing these people. They watch our stuff. If I say something that's the wrong way now, Dana's obviously going to be going, out you go, son. No chance. Where does Justin Gaethje sit into this lightweight division? To be honest, I don't know. Because you would automatically think that maybe a matchup with Michael Chandler is where they could go. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful fight. Will Gaethje want that fight with Chandler coming off a loss, even though that loss was in a vacant title fight? Maybe. I think that could be the matchup, mate. I think a matchup for Justin Gaethje taking on Michael Chandler is where I would personally go, just because that's the type of fight that I would like to see.
Yeah, me too. Sign me up for that, absolutely. And I think it's a real good clash of styles as well. I think both of those guys are deep-rooted AAA, college wrestlers that have become knockout merchants that love a fist fight. And that's absolutely how I think it would play out as well as a fist fight. So yeah, if I was Sean Shelby, that would already be on the board for me because, Gaethje needs to come back. Gaethje was the guy for a long time. And, talking about him being potentially Khabib's kryptonite and everything else. And it just shows you what a loss to Khabib can actually do. It can set you back so much. And the timing of that loss was so bad for him because Conor came back afterwards and everything else. So Justin Gaethje just badly needs to win. A big win.
Killer Carlos Condit.
Here's your mate, Carlos Condit, taking on Max Griffin, which is going to headline those prelims. We're an hour into the weigh-ins. I'll give you an update in a minute, but let's see what Carlos is at.
171 pounds, the official weight for Carlos Condit.
The only person that we're missing on the prelims so far is Michel Pereira. We've not seen Michel Pereira come through, but everybody else on the prelims has come through, and they've been absolutely bang on weight. Still waiting for Greg Hardy. It annoys me, this. You're a heavyweight, mate, right? Why are you keeping us all waiting? Yeah, I know you might have gone for breakfast this morning or whatever it may be, but there's no need. Just get here on time. I know people will make the argument saying he's got 2 hours. Yeah, but there's no need. There's no need for us to be waiting for you, is there? Come on, Greg. Weigh in. He's taken on Tai Tuivasa, who came through strong earlier on. The only person to miss weight so far is Irene Aldana, who came in well over the 136 limit. She came in at 139.5 for her fight with Yana Kunitskaya. I'm sure there's negotiations going on backstage as to purse cuts and various things like that. But the good news for everybody that is joining this stream maybe an hour late, because we did start about... do you know what I love? Did you hear that, Nick? Did you hear my FaceTime going off there?
I can hear your phone going. Yeah, is that Bisping? Is it?
Yeah.
Is he ringing to see what time we're on?
No. Right. This is the best thing about doing this. Right. My wife knows full well that we're on the telly. She knows we're on the telly. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just give him a FaceTime. If she rings again, this is what's going to happen. I'll answer the FaceTime call and I'll screen share it so the world can see her mush, right? And then she'll be embarrassed, won't she? Then she'll learn a lesson not to ring me whilst we're doing the bummy TV show.
Just check she's not in her red panties, because it is Conor weekend. You never know. Just give that a check first.
Mate, been married 10 years. Red panties finished about 7 years ago. As I was saying, Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor.
He lost his microphone. His wife's cut his microphone now. Never mind the producers. I think the wife's cut his microphone. We've just got a couple more to weigh in. Still no sign of Mr. Bisping. But this gives me a chance to... Oh, let's have a look. We've got some nice stats here. So we've got the... this must be our Twitter vote. UFC 264 main event is set. Seen them on the scales. Who have you got? I wonder if this has changed now. And there seems to be a big swing there towards Conor McGregor. 64% of the BT Sport followers now saying Conor McGregor. That is a big swing, especially when you look at the bookies who have gone the other way and are certainly backing Dustin Poirier. Interesting.
I think she's disturbed after me just slagging her off there, mate. I think she was disabling my microphone. It was nothing to do with our producers or anything. For those that have only just joined the show, we've been going at this for an hour. They've got an hour remaining still to weigh in, but Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor are 3. Your main event's done for UFC 264, as is your co-main event for those that have joined us late.
We've got a non-title fight. So that means that Dustin was allowed to weigh in at 156. And then about 25 minutes later, there's a little replay now of the main man, notorious Conor McGregor. He also tipped the scales at 156 pounds to lock in that main event. Championship weight not required. Conor made championship weight on Fight Island, lost on Fight Island. We talked about it earlier, about giving something away. He's obviously not interested in giving away even a pound here in Las Vegas. So super intriguing. Is he back? Did you just keep killing the mic to see if I can pick up?
Yeah. This is right. You constantly keep telling everybody on this show that you're the talent, right? Let's see what you're all about.
Just chopping yourself off mid-flow.
There's nothing worse than when your fighter pundit doesn't turn up for a program, right? So therefore, there's only 2 of us. We're flying the plane. Here we go. Let's get stuck in. And hopefully people are enjoying the show. But then when obviously we're at the realms of technology here and Wi-Fi and my wife ringing us during the show. Obviously, she's not even fully aware that I'm actually working or anything. Normally, we'd be in the studio, wouldn't we, Nick, or at the weigh-in ourselves and just at the hands of our fantastic production team who will be shooting this show, and we'd just be carrying on as normal, mate. But every now and again, Wi-Fi and various bits lets us down. So let's see what you're all about, son. Let's see if you are the main man. Here, I've got a stat for you. Before we get more questions, there's loads of people obviously interacting, and please, I'm encouraging you to interact with us, mainly because we just need topics for when my Wi-Fi goes down, so Nick can talk to you about something. So if you can ping some things in, that'd be wonderful. But check this out, right? Please. For a stat, Conor will be the fastest fighter to 14 knockdowns in UFC history if he knocks down Dustin at the weekend. He averages a knockdown every 8 minutes and 16 seconds in UFC competition. Only 3 fighters in UFC history with 10 or more fights have averaged 1 knockdown per fight. Obviously, Conor's one of them. Can you name the other 2, mate? Yeah, because I told you pre-show. Right, so go on then. No, it's all yours.
Oh, don't say that. I was gonna hammer up first. Are any of them heavyweights by any chance?
No, they're not. No heavyweights in this.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting then. I'll get me thinking cap on.
They're all current fighters. This is UFC history. The current fighters as well.
What I will say is, surely Cody Garbrandt is one of those guys with his heavy little hands.
I thought Cody Garbrandt might be the one that took everybody by surprise. I think the performance that Cody Garbrandt put in against Dominic Cruz, where he put Dominic down quite a few times, has upped his average. Yes, Cody Garbrandt is one of those guys. He is a guy that averages at least 1 knockdown per fight. The other one?
My guy.
Go on.
My guy. My tip from a few years ago, prior to him coming into the UFC, I said, this is the guy to look out for. This guy, when he gets into the UFC, is going to be a superstar. Israel Adesanya. Boom. Too fast, too slick, too powerful.
Yeah, there you go. Israel Adesanya, Cody Garbrandt, and Conor McGregor are the only 3 fighters with 10 or more fights in the UFC to average 1 knockdown per fight. Sensational. And if Conor, like I said, knocks down Dustin at any point in the fight tomorrow, he'll be the quickest of 14. Everybody else that has got to 14, by the way, has had 20 or more UFC fights. Sensational achievement. There you go. Just going back and reiterating how good of a mixed martial artist Conor McGregor is. Yana Kunitskaya is on Twitter here. This is obviously referring to a fight which is tomorrow night, but her opponent, Irene Aldana, weighed in at 139.5, well over the weight. Second time in a row that my opponent, it's just gone off my screen there for some reason.
Yeah.
Pick that up, Nick, because I can't see that now.
Yeah, I think she was saying, it's second time in a row my opponent has missed weight. How possible to have 15 weeks and miss out weight for 4 pounds? And she's exactly, saying what I always... That's not missing weight. She hasn't missed weight. She's failed to make weight. And there's a big difference. I think missing weight is a pound, a half a pound, whatever it may be. 4 or 5 pounds, once you get into that kind of territory, that's not missing weight. You're failed to make weight. You knew full well you were never, ever going to make weight. I think Caitlin Vieira is who she's referring to in her last fight. Caitlin Vieira got on the scales at 138 pounds as well. You got to feel for Kunitskaya because she's done her part of the job, Adam. You don't know how hard it is for her to cut weight. She may well have had a torrid time in the last 12 hours getting the last pound or 2 off. But she's delivered. She's come on weight like she's contractually obliged to do. And it must be so frustrating for her that her opponent, 3 or 3.5 pounds suggests she hasn't even really tried to make weight.
The thing is, though, and there's got to be more research into this because we've spoken about this on various programs that me and you make together, mate, about water retention for female athletes, especially those in and around menstrual cycles. I don't know where Irene Aldana is at in her menstrual cycle right now, and it's a scientific fact, scientifically proven, that women during that period of the month retain water a lot more than they would do if they weren't in that particular period of the month. So therefore, I don't know where she's at. Maybe that is a factor of this, and certainly I think the UFC and other organisations that are involved in fight sports need to make allowances for that. There's got to be proper research put into this, mate, because I think it's unfair on some female fighters that are missing weight.
Yeah, I spoke to some of the lab coats at the PI last time we were in Vegas. A real good chat with some of the head nutrition guys there, and they are pulling data together, and they believe it'll be groundbreaking data in the field of women's fight sports, that they're analysing exactly how female athletes retain water, hold water, what a weight cut does to their physiology, because there just isn't enough information on it at all across all of fight sports, and they want to pull that together, because it's one thing saying we're allowing a pound allowance for the men because they've got years and decades of data to look at. Slightly different for the women, so it may well change moving forward in the future. There may well be more of a weight allowance afforded to certain girls, but then obviously the other argument is Kunitskaya has made weight. Kunitskaya, as far as I know, has never failed to make weight. She's also a mother as well, so it's not like she hasn't put her body through the ringer a little bit. She's carried a child and everything else, so her body clock's going to be as difficult to manage as any other female. She's never missed weight in history, so there's also that part of it to look at as well. Is Aldana in the right weight division? If she's consistently missing weight, then it can't be good.
Keep your interaction coming our way. If you are just joining us on this live stream on the BT Sport channel, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor have weighed in, both made 156, and we have a fight on our hands in the main event at UFC 264. We're just waiting for Greg Hardy off the main card. Jerome Rivera on the early prelims, we're still waiting for him. Michel Pereira, still waiting for him on the prelims as well. So only 3 fighters by my calculations, and every now and again, just for and I decide to come on so therefore Nick can fly solo, because as you can see, the third of the attacking trio that has been ravaging the world of UFC broadcasting for the last couple has decided to enjoy Vegas a little bit too much and not join us on the show. Who knows? Maybe DJ Mikey B got himself a DJ gig last night. Maybe that happened. Maybe he's taken over.
Here tomorrow night on the main card at UFC 264.
Don't get me wrong. He will be back, no doubt, for our review show. That's Michael Bisping that I'm talking about there, of course. And this is Greg Hardy, who completes the main card. Greg Hardy taking on Tai Tuivasa, a fantastic fight. Just such a captivating fight. You know that someone's getting knocked out in this one. Let's have a listen.
$264.5, the official weight for Greg Hardy.
Both of these lads have had to cut weight to make heavyweight. That's the levels that we're at with this knock on the main card at UFC 264. That completes the main card, though. Everybody's come through but Irene Aldana, who I said a little earlier on. She missed weight. Greg Hardy's on the bunny. Half a pound under the allotted. Well done, him. Taking on Tai Tuivasa. Should be a banger, that, Nick.
Yeah, he's a big unit, isn't he? And 6 seasons in the NFL before he was basically dropped out of the NFL for various reasons that we don't want to go into. But as a mixed martial artist, which is what he's reinvented himself as, courtesy of some of the best coaching in the sport, I might add as well. He's surrounded himself with the likes of Din Thomas and Rashad Evans and people like that. ATT, I think he spent time there as well. 5 first-round knockouts as a professional, 3 first-round knockouts as an amateur before he turned pro as well. Yes, he's got a couple of losses on his record now as well, but those losses include, as you mentioned earlier, going over and fighting Volkov in Moscow, a ranked heavyweight in Moscow. So he's game as a box of frogs, Greg Hardy, and I think he realises that to achieve what he hopes to, and clearly he hopes to become UFC heavyweight champion, he's going to have to take some L's along the way. He's going to have to take some risks, and he's going to have to learn the hard way in front of the fans' eyes inside the octagon. And you've got to respect that, of course, aside from his private life and his history there, as just thinking of him purely as a mixed martial artist. You can't come away from the fact that he's putting the work in.
Sorry, I'm just laughing my head off, right? You've obviously been spending far too much time with Tyson Fury. Far too much time, right? The phrase is mad as a box of frogs. It's not game as a box of frogs. You're not game as a box of frogs. Tyson Fury very famously once said, he's game as a pebble. What's that even mean? I don't even know what that means. Mad as a box of frogs, Nicholas, is the phrase. But I like it. If a box of frogs are game, I'm down with that, mate. I'm down.
Why not?
That's right.
Why
That is
not?
right out the Tyson Fury book of similes and metaphors, isn't it? Game us a box of frogs.
He is, though. What else have we got here? Okay. Combate currently reporting that Khamzat Chimaev is taking on Li Jingliang. It's in the works for UFC 267. Oh, and that's been set up as being Abu Dhabi at the moment. I think that's breaking news as well. Abu Dhabi coming back into the fold towards the end of the year. Great fight. I'm a huge fan of Li Jingliang. He's a massive welterweight, absolutely tough as nails. And Khamzat, man, I think that's the right fight for Khamzat Chimaev. We know he's a prodigy. We know he's a supreme prospect across 2 weight divisions. And we know he was willing to fight Leon Edwards. We know that literally he's like being strained on a leash from everybody there over in Stockholm. The kid has got so much potential. However, he's just had a really tough time with COVID. Really tough, time in hospital, despair. I think there was one time he even retired from mixed martial arts. I think Dana had to step in. I think the UFC have helped him with, to make sure he could get the best, medical care he could possibly get. The guy was in a bad way, hospital bound in a bad way. So I think going back against a guy even lesser than Li Jingliang, I wouldn't have complained. I wouldn't have complained who he come back against. I think he's got to come back. He's got to test those lungs, which is the big long-term effects of COVID. Test those lungs, make sure he can, get a full camp in. I'm not against this matchup at all. I think it's a great matchup. And if Khamzat's going to get back into, everyone's living rooms again, I think this is the perfect way to do it, man. Bring him back slowly and then let him explode in 2022.
You're right, man. They could have given him something a little easier, couldn't they? Li Jingliang is a proper fight, that. Especially with Khamzat, like you said, he's not used to this inactivity. He's used to obviously a high volume of fights, fighting on a regular basis. He's been out for a long period of time off the back of the COVID thing. Long COVID was supposed to be a big thing for him. Of course, he's suffered massively, and you rightfully said the UFC have invested heavily in the medical care for Khamzat in order to get him back up and running. Listen, I'm delighted to see him back. He captured all our imagination, didn't he? I'm glad that he's back competing and fighting again. But that's no joke of a fight, mate. That's a serious fight. And again, it makes perfect sense to do it in Abu Dhabi. He's got a massive following out there in the Middle East. And also, it's quite nice as well for an Asian fighter not have to travel halfway around the world to come to the US or somewhere else. Abu Dhabi, quite close as well. Nice. Oh, hang on a minute. This guy knows what he's talking about. What's he said here? This Adam Catterall on Twitter. Let's have a look here. Looks like the news is out. Paul Craig, Alex Gustafsson, September the 4th, UFC London. Hopefully. All my days. Fire emoji. See what I did there? Just spiced it up a touch. How are you going to be with this one, right? Because Paul Craig is technically your new lover, and Alex Gustafsson's your ex-lover. So how are you going to be, man? What's happening?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Alexander Gustafsson was the namesake behind my son. My firstborn is called Alexander because
I think someone called Gus.
Yeah, just because Alexander Gustafsson is he's a top guy. He was a great fighter, and man, he used to be one of my absolute favourites. Of course, that fight with John Jones still goes down as one of the greatest fights in the history of the sport. But you're right, Paul Craig is my new girlfriend.
Crush.
He's my new BFF, if you like. Yeah, he's my
crush,
new crush. And I've been spending a little bit of time with Paul Craig recently, and I'm in, man. I'm all in on the Paul Craig train, and he's a guy that's completely got his head screwed on. He knew, he's given himself 2 or 3 more years in the sport, and he realises that he may not be a fan favourite, and he may not be getting the opportunities as quickly as others around him. But he knows if he keeps winning, he cannot be denied, and he will slowly continue to climb the charts. And this is a huge opportunity for Paul Craig. Alexander Gustafsson, former multiple-time title contender, one of the best mixed martial artists in this light heavyweight division. Yes, he's had a strange couple of years jumping up and down weight divisions and everything else, but Alexander Gustafsson in any shape and form is still Alexander Gustafsson. So massive opportunity for Paul Craig. What an incredible co-main event that is for London. Can't wait.
Mate, look at the resume that Paul Craig could potentially have. He's like a legend slayer. Shogun Hua, then into Alex Gustafsson. The performances that he's putting on, he's really found himself, hasn't he, as a martial artist. I think a lot of people get in there, and we spoke about it on so many occasions. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist, is Paul, grappling specialist. And sometimes fighters of that ilk come into the UFC and they think, right, it's the big show now, I'm going to be a banger. And they get involved in various things that they don't necessarily need to get into. They need to play to their own skill sets. And I think that penny has dropped with Paul, and you're seeing the fruits of that labour in his performances. He's been absolutely mustard for a couple of years now, and he's rightfully now on the cusp of something very, very special. Alex Gustafsson, I don't care where he's at in his life or his career, is still one of the biggest names in that division. There's no doubt about it. It's a great division. There's great names in that division. Of course, there are talented fighters. No bigger name than Alex Gustafsson around the world in that division. For Paul to get that opportunity in front of technically a home crowd at UFC London, if we can make it for UFC London with these travel restrictions now starting to ease, mate, that could be the coming out party. That could be the one that gets him a top fiver and then gets him into title contention, you know, especially with the title currently being held in Europe with Jan Blachowicz. The narrative's there, man. Battle of Europe, Paul Craig, Jan Blachowicz. Come on, baby, let's dance. And I'm not ruling out Glover, by the way, before people get on to me. I'm just saying in my own British narrative, British European narrative, that could be phenomenal in a year to 18 months' time.
Absolutely huge. And likewise, if Gus was to get the win, he's suddenly right back in the frame again now because he is Alexander Gustafsson. But you're right, this matchup between these two guys is the envy of the entire 205 division, because I think all the guys who are ranked at 205 are looking at it going, Paul Craig's got Gustafsson. I would have took Gustafsson. I'd have jumped at Gustafsson, the chance to put that scalp on my resume. But I also think those same top 15 guys who are saying that are also going, I'm glad Gustafsson's got Paul Craig. Woo-hoo! He's the last guy anybody wants to meet right now because he's comfortable in his own skin. He's the guy that gets in there. Yes, listen, Paul Craig's fantastic with media. I just don't think the world's fell in love with him yet or had the opportunity to fall in love with him. I think he could become a huge star once he gets the opportunity. But right now, he's king of the Who Needs Him club in the light heavyweight division, because you know what he's going to do. You know he's not going to stand and bang with you. You know he's going to get in there, pull guard, and he's going to throw high-level jit submissions up from the bottom. And a lot of these light heavyweights don't want to be in that world at all. You know, so I think it's a great matchup, absolutely stellar matchup. I think everybody in that 15 is either envious or delighted that Gustafsson's back.
Listen, a little bit of news breaking here from Las Vegas on the ground out there. Our mate Dave, the Schmo's on radio. I think that's his radio account there that has tweeted this, hearing that shortly after Conor McGregor and Rafael dos Anjos weighed in. Rafael dos Anjos weighed in today, by the way, because he is the backup fighter for the main event, just in case either missed weight. They got into a heated exchange backstage. The two were supposed to obviously fight way back at UFC 196 for that lightweight championship, which RDA held at the time. RDA got injured, fell off, and then it was the Ned Diaz fight, of course. RDA weighed in as a backup, as I just mentioned. Love it, man. I love Needle. I can't get enough of it. You know, people come at you all the time and talk about, it's martial arts, got to be respectful, all of this type of stuff. And of course, we love that too. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I love to see the respect between the guys and girls that compete against each other. But let's be straight. This is entertainment, man. I kind of like the Needle as well. And nobody pushes the Needle when it comes to entertainment in fight sports more than Conor McGregor. And if he's having a little bit of a rumble with somebody else backstage as well, that just goes to show to me that the guy's absolutely vexed and he's ready to rock and roll tomorrow night.
Plus, all credit in the world to RDA, playing Conor at his own game. He weighed in a couple of minutes before Conor. He could have been long gone. He's waited for Conor. He's stuck around thinking at some point Conor's going to walk past me, and at some point I can get in his face. And that's exactly what he's done. And that's how you get fights, man. That's how you make fights happen.
264 in the flyweight division, Jerome Rivera.
Now look at this, right? We're still waiting for Michel Pereira, but this is Jerome Rivera. Here he comes, the boy, taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov.
The Renegade.
Interesting.
Oof, that's a
interesting tattoo.
Yeah.
125.5, the official weight for Jerome Rivera.
looked nervous for a minute there, didn't he? Looks a little bit drawn in the eyes, but he's done. Well done, son.
Yeah.
So
good run outside of the
for...
UFC, but struggled since he's been in the UFC. Weirdly, that kid, he's 0 for 3 in the UFC now, just to sign off on Rivera. I think he's got a 10-5 record, but he's 0 for 3 in the UFC. This fight's a flyweight. His last fight in the UFC was at featherweight. He got knocked out in 26 seconds back in February at featherweight. Crazy kid. This is back in his own weight division anyway. He's back down to flyweight. Hopefully we see the best of him.
Well, all the early prelims.
Bit of commotion backstage. Everyone seems to be on high alert there.
Yeah, it's Conor and RDA. They're having a little bit of a tumble backstage. Hopefully someone's got a camera there. Sunshine, we can get a bit of a stream on. Early prelims, everybody's weighed in, so that's done and dusted. On the prelims, which gets underway at 1 a.m. on BT Sport 2, we're just waiting for Michel Pereira. Everybody else has come through. Trevor Giles and Dricus Duplessis has come through. About time, son.
In the UFC's welterweight division, competing
looks like he's
live
just
on
got up.
ESPN tomorrow, Michel Pereira.
Look at shape on this lad. I'm surprised he's not backflipping on the way to the scales, this boy. Fantastic fighter. Like I said, I think he's toned down the craziness. I expect to see some
weight before,
flashiness. Though. He has.
He's a massive welterweight. Huge.
He's
done it.
170.5, the official weight for Michel Pereira.
There you go. Footwork and speed, I think he's got to be able to run circles around Nico Price, but it should be a cracking fight. In fact, the whole prelims, which gets underway from 1 a.m. on BT Sport 2, should be fantastic. Trevor Giles getting us underway with Dricus Duplessis. We've got Ryan Hall and Ilia Topuria, which Nick's previewed on our preview show. Fantastic fight. Nico Price and Michel Pereira should be a banger as well. And then topping off the bill on the prelims, Carlos Condit taking on Max Griffin. Earlier on, they all came through on the main card too. Only Irene Aldana missed it badly as well. 139.5 for her fight with Yana Kunitskaya. Sean O'Malley and Chris Moutinho came through good. Taito Ivasa and Greg Hardy slipped under the heavyweight limit by half a pound each. Heavyweights having to cut weight to make sure that they're on point for 265. Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson doing the business as well, looking absolutely in sensational form, the pair of them. That should be a cracking co-main event. And then, of course, all eyes on the big prize, which is Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3. The trilogy concluded at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The cherry on top of that main card, of course, which gets underway from 3 a.m. on BT Sport Box Office. For further information of how you purchase this event, head to bt.com/box office. Sports box office, should I say. It's all there for you. Go and have a little bit of an nosy. All the information's there of how you purchase that. But do remember that the prelims are available on BT Sport 2. And then at 3 a.m, we're exclusively on BT Sport Box Office. Headline, like I said, between Poirier and McGregor 3. Now that you've seen a weigh-in, now that you've seen press conferences, has your mind flipped anywhere this week as to how, not just the main event, but how certain fights might play out?
I can't stop smiling. Now everyone's weighed in. I literally can't stop smiling. I'm sitting here grinning like a Cheshire cat. So impressed with the way Dustin Poirier's held himself all week. Absolutely composed. First on the scales. That's champion behaviour for me. You know, the press conference, absolutely sensational. But look, man, come on. We're here for one reason and one reason only. It's the Conor McGregor show. And he looks like the old Conor McGregor. Notorious is well and truly back. He looks sensational on the scales as well. I like the aggression at the press conference. I like the fact he's scrapping with future opponents backstage too. This is real Conor, man. Back in the gutter, back where we get the best out of him. Honestly, if I was putting money down now, I don't know which way I would go. I can see it playing out exactly the way that everyone's calling it. Dustin late, Conor early. What I do know is it's going to be unmissable because Conor McGregor in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile guarantees one thing: an iconic moment in the history of this sport. You better believe it.
Listen, Nick's kind of just laid it up for you there because this is the first time that Las Vegas will be welcoming full attendance back to a fight event. It should be absolutely sensational. Like I said, prelims get underway from 1 a.m. On BT Sport 2, with that main card getting underway from 3 a.m. on BT Sport Box Office, bt.com/Sport Box Office for further information on that. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Part 3. We'll see you at the fights.
All right, Michael Bisping here for BT Sport, and I am sat next to two of the biggest names in the fight game, Tyson Fury.
How are you, Mosh?
And Conor McGregor.
Good to be back here on BT Sport.
So listen, Tyson, what do you think it is that makes Conor such a superstar?
I think Conor's transcended the game of MMA.
Thank you so much.
He's set the game on fire.
Oh, good man, good man.
He's damn sexy. Sexy as...
Say it like it is. Tyson's a good man. I like Tyson. He's a great boxer, phenomenal boxer. Best natural boxer in the heavyweight division at this time. He's got a good, tough fight. Your man Deontay's a powerful guy, but if he keeps his mind strong, I think he can do the job.
So I'm going to go bang. It's going to be like an 18-wheeler running over somebody.
I love it. And of course, a huge trilogy fight against Dustin for you, Conor.
I'm going to bust him up, but you know what I mean? There's no doubts about it, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's getting bust up.
Come on, McGregor.
He's a madman, Tyson, isn't he?
What do you think, Tyson? Can Conor pull it off?
I think he wins this fight. I think he wins it in style as well, to be fair.
Well, there you have it. Two trilogies, two of the biggest names in the fight game, all going down right here in Las Vegas, baby.
There is no business like the fight business.
Adios, amigos. Peace out.
Could have made me a bit taller, though. I look like Eddie Hearn.
Hey!